Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I just want to welcome everybody to today's Requisition Channel industry meeting. Apologies for the silence earlier. You should be able to hear me now. I just want to make sure everybody's audio is working. If it's not, I just ask everybody takes their computer speakers off of mute in case you can't hear. Or if I sound muffled or anything, just please turn your volume of your computer speakers up. And you should be able to hear everybody okay. Just some general housekeeping rules for today's seminar. Just for your information, today's seminar is being recorded. It will be available for review at a later date. We will be posting that to Interact, but it may take a couple of weeks for us to get it 508 compliant before we can post it. There is no dial number for this seminar. You will be listening through your computer speakers. Again, make sure they're not muted, and make sure your volume is turned all the way up so you can hear us. If you're having any technical issues during the call, just please type it in the chat box, and I'll do my best to get an answer to you or to help you out. Questions for today's presenters. We ask that you hold your questions until the end of each presentation. There'll be a slide noting when to ask questions, just so we can keep up. I'd say we have about almost 189 participants today, so we'll be doing our best to try to get you an answer as soon as we can. Just it's kind of overwhelming with all the questions coming in at one time, so we just ask that you please wait for those posted times after the presentation has been completed, and we'll try to field your questions from there. We will be providing a link to the recorded session, I say, in 2 weeks. Also, we will be providing a copy of today's presentation electronically via email. And the FSSI teams will be providing a recap of responses to all questions, and that will all be posted to Interact, just so you know. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to our first presenter, Walter Eckrith with GSA. And Walter, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, George. I want to welcome everyone, and glad you all took time out of your day to sit with us and learn about the next phase in the FSSI area that we're working on with office supplies, janitorial and sanitation products, and maintenance, repair, and operational supplies. Hopefully most of you all were with us when we went through the purchase channel industry days for both of those, and we've got procurements on the street and an evaluation with the purchase channel. Now the second piece of this puzzle is the requisition channel. And we'll talk a little bit more for those of you not familiar with the requisition channel and how that differs from the purchase channel. And we'll talk about some differences in the procurement. But just to kind of give you a better picture, what you're going to see today, you'll see that between the three commodities, we have some slight differences in our procurement approach, and that's really based upon where we are in the life cycle of the strategic sourcing initiative. Office supply, we're in starting our third generation of that. With the current second generation, we have a lot of transaction level data on prices and products that the government has purchased. And so with that, we're able to take a slightly different approach to the procurement and to better handle the data that we've got. For JanSan and MRO, we're just starting our first generation, so we don't have that transaction level data. So what you'll see is an acquisition strategy that reflects that. Let me turn it over now to Patrick Donovan, kind of walk us through supply transformation and what that means to us. As George said, as you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box, and when we get to the end of the first session, we'll start fielding questions there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Donovan. I'm the director of GSS's Transformation Division and leading the Supply Transformation Initiative. So this afternoon, I'd like to go over a little bit to give you a little background on supply transformation and what it is, show you and talk to you a little bit how FSI fits into that supply transformation initiative, and then go over some of the key milestones and some of the key dates that you should be aware of as we go forward with this. Good, next one.
Tim, next slide.
There you go. I'm sorry, Tim. So as we said, what supply transformation is its GSS implementation of moving more towards a vendor supply chain. So currently GSS has a wholesale transformation going on in which we're moving from where we have distribution centers to having those items provided by vendors. And we also have a retail transformation in which we have retail stores that provide these goods to customers also. And we'll be working for solutions as part of this acquisition to supply those stores also. Next slide. So as I talked about, the supply transformation has been an ongoing transformation within GSS since 2007. And that's really back when we did a business analysis and we looked at our business model, one that was based on distribution centers, maintaining inventory, and sending those items to customers from our distribution centers. As we started moving towards a new business model, one of the things we did look at was launching what we call our 4PL retail logistics program, in which we have a 4PL provider provide a supply chain, goods and commodities to customers via retail locations. The next thing that we moved towards in 11 was our direct vendor delivery FSSI pilot, in which we started piloting certain items being delivered to customers directly from vendors. So that brings us to here where we're finally in the final stages of implementing supply transformation, where we're going to move all our logistics and supply chain solutions to a vendor-driven one in which the vendors provide those goods and services and logistics solutions to the customer directly. Next slide. So you may be wondering why, what's all driving this, and we've talked about an overall business model transformation. Part of it is that we looked at by going to a direct vendor delivery or strategic partner delivery model and not having distribution centers, we would save the taxpayers and GSA about $100 million a year in savings. And then that also makes us more agile and be better to respond to our customer requirements. So, and also we have some other things coming on board in which now there's certain technology solutions that we also are implementing that allows us to move to that model where we'll be able to track goods and also better facilitate this direct vendor delivery model. As part of the goals, as we said, is it's offering a more responsive supply chain. It's also providing a broader spectrum of quality products at a better price. And we're also, as we talked about, a real key aspect of it is the efficiency, in which we'll achieve over $100 million in annual savings a year. Also, this is where the FSSI solution fits in. By using that solution to provide these, we'll be able to promote small business usage and also allow GSA to remain competitive and a more solvent business model. Go ahead, next slide, please. So, talking about how FSSI fits into the supply transformation, what we're really talking about is FSSI is built on several pillars. First is developing an insight into the market and life cycle, leveraging government-wide spending, foster more achieving socioeconomic goals, and constantly capturing and refining best practices. So supply transformation is built on the same pillars of using that, but also adding that we're going to provide worldwide delivery. We're going to provide Fed standards and milk standard compliance. And the biggest achievement for our customers is we're going to be able to provide an end-to-end supply chain process and logistics solutions for our DoD and civilian customers. Next slide. So now it gets us to the last part, some of the key dates that you should be aware of. So right now, as you can see, we're conducting industry days and engaging industry to go over the requirements. And we're looking to implement the strategic partner delivery in Q3 of 2014 and actually have it start being able to deliver orders in the fourth quarter. Part of what is driving these dates is that we have two dates, our distribution centers, one being the Western Distribution Center, that will be closing in September 2014. The next key date is our Eastern Distribution Center, located in Burlington, New Jersey, will be closing December 2014. So we need to have requisition channel solutions to provide ongoing goods and services for our logistics and supply chain needs of our customers. Next slide, I think that's it. Just a glossary of terms. I guess next is some of the things we talked about. Are there any questions about supply transformation?
All right. Thank you, Patrick. If anyone has questions on the supply transformation piece of this, go ahead and start typing them in. I see, looks like some folks are starting to type now. Maureen, we see your question regarding Alan's CERC letters that came out. We'll contact Alan and have him follow up with you all. So there are some questions here regarding specifics on individual pieces, either on the office supplies or janitorial and sanitation or MRO, and the actual procurement pieces there. We'll answer those questions after we get to the next section. We're actually going to talk about the three procurement pieces. Just right now, looking at questions on the supply transformation. Patrick, there's a question on what's the long-term plan for 4PL, for the fourth-party logistics stores. And I know we're probably going to have a separate industry day for that.
Right. We will. I mean, currently right now, the 4PL is being piloted still with the Marine Corps. I forget how many stores we have, but the long term would be we'd like that to be a viable option for more of our customers. I couldn't give you exact numbers. I'm not sure.
About 8 stores right now.
8 stores right now.
And then they're talking about converting an additional around 30 stores, including the classic stores.
All right, around 30 of the classic stores right now to the 4PL solution. So, and that's within the next year, 2 years. So that's long term. A lot of it would be, again, it's driven by customer demand. So the more customers that are interested, we would do that and have more stores.
Terrific. Thank you, Patrick. There's a question here on with the commercial vendor distribution partnership, does GSA foresee relaxed labeling requirements? And I'm going to break my own rule there, even though that's a procurement question. I'll go ahead and answer it now. No, the labeling requirements, especially as we see them going to consolidation points, we need the labeling there.
Yeah,
that is a hard requirement.
I would say, if anything, there will be more stricter and standardized standards, if you want to say, specifically for our DoD customers. So there are some standards that we have now for CONUS, which is the continental United States. For overseas, there will be very specific labeling and formatting instructions. So as part of that will be in the requisition and instructions, but we'll be working on a solution right now we're piloting, and where vendors will have to onboard onto electronic data exchange, which will provide them with forms and labels. And we're also looking at, for those vendors, providing training on what the labeling needs to be look like, how it needs to be applied, where for the overseas shipments will be sent to consolidation points, and that's why, and it needs to conform to our DoD customer standards.
Thank you. This question on the supply transformation affect all BPAs and all GSA schedules. I mean, it's going to affect all of the contracts that are in place, as well as blanket purchase agreements that are in place that support the distribution centers.
Correct. Right. I mean, it'll be in long-term as far as this requisition channel acquisition is part of the long-term solution. But as I mentioned, if you look at the dates with September and December of 2014, right, this solution won't necessarily be in place to support all of that, nor is this a comprehensive solution. So we'll be converting, you should have gotten letters will be coming out on the distribution, on the inventory of those contracts that you currently have for stock items being ending, and us converting or moving to a strategic partner delivery model for all our NSNs that we currently have.
Thank you, Patrick. There are a lot of questions going more into 4PL, and while that is a piece of supply transformation, it's not really the focus of this meeting. As I said, we're going to have a separate session directly related to fourth-party logistics. So I'm going to defer on most of those questions for right now. The other thing I will say, during the course of this, I'm sure we'll get more questions than we have time to answer. We will work to answer those and post those up on Interact in the coming weeks, just as we have done with the purchase channel. There's a number of questions regarding the actual vendor mix for the solutions, and we'll hold off on those until we actually get further into discussing where we're going to go on the commodities. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions directly related to supply transformation. You all seem to have gone straight to asking the questions regarding the actual procurement. So if I don't see any more questions here in a little bit, let's go on ahead, and we'll turn it over and have Donna Peck lead us through starting to talk about the actual requisition channel.
Thank you, Walter. This is Donna Peck, and I am the program manager for JanSan. And as we've mentioned, these three programs, the office supplies or OS3, maintenance, repair, and operations or MRO, and janitorial and sanitation supplies or JanSan, are all moving on a parallel path for the requisition channel. So the draft RFQs or RFP for all three programs have been made available for review on Interact. The comments are all due on February 21st for all three programs. And we hope to have the final RFP or RFQ posted by this fiscal year in the April to June timeframe, with awards complete by the July to September timeframe. And while there are many similarities for these three programs, there are also some differences, and so we'll go over those differences in some of the later slides. As Walter mentioned, Office Supplies is a third-generation solution, so they have more data on hand to analyze and show savings than MRO and JanSan. So we're working through that. We'll have that data later for the other two programs. And we will have another question and answer period at the end of this presentation so that you can continue to type your questions in the chat box. So Tim, slide 13. This slide gives an overview of each of the channels and how our customers use them. The first one is the purchasing channel for direct customer to vendor purchases. And then the middle one is the requisition channel, which we're talking about today, which is the channel for the mill strip and the fed strip orders that are sent directly into GSA and primarily utilizes NSN. And then, as we've already talked about too, the fourth party logistics or the 4PL channel is for the on-base stores. And as we've said, our information today is dealing solely with the requisition channel. Slide 14. This is a pictorial image of the requisition process, how customers send in orders to GSA via mill strip or fed strip, and GSA, in turn, contracts with vendors to fulfill those orders. The use of electronic data is critical to the success of filling these orders and meeting our customers' needs. Slide 15. This shows the steps that each of the 3 programs will follow to create our solutions. Historical data from GSA Global Supply was used to develop the items within the market basket, and these items were then put into groups of like categories or pools. You'll hear those terms used interchangeably within the 3 programs. In step 2, we'll issue a RFP or an RFQ asking vendors to submit offers on these categories or pools. Each program will have technical evaluation factors that must be met to qualify for an award. And then finally, we have the path to establishment. Now for MRO and JanSan, all of the non-market basket items of the qualifying contractors will also be included in the final solutions, and we'll use the average discount of the market basket to apply that to the non-market basket items. For the office supplies, those items will be individually reviewed and negotiated. Slide 16. This gives a brief look on how the quoting process will work. This example shows MRO and tools, and it will be similar for JanSan, but does not apply to the office supplies RFP. So the chart on the left shows that for this RFQ, for this item, the scheduled price, and then the next column, the quote that you would put in there for the quote. And then the final column is an automatic calculation of the discount that you've offered off of your scheduled price. In this example, the offers quoted an average of 9% on several tool items. And so and keep in mind too that the vendors will be required to quote on 100% of the items within a category or pool. Slide 17. This is the first of 2 slides that shows the technical evaluation factors that will be used for the requisition channel. I'm not going to read each one, but I will go over a few of them. For instance, the second bullet, as I've already mentioned, vendors will be required to provide 100% of the core items in a category with the supply manufacturer's part number and the UPC code. And that means in order to pass this factor, you must quote on each and every one of the items within a specific pool or category. The next bullet demonstrates the ability to provide core market basket items versus non-market basket items in a pool. In addition to those core items, we also want the non-market basket items so that we can offer our customers other alternatives. Sustainability requirements. Each program has national stock numbers that identify environmental attributes, and these attributes will be identified on the item purchase descriptions, which have been posted with the RFQs or the RFP. And these can include requirements for post-consumer content, bio-based content, or may require items be WaterSense or Energy Star approved. Slide 18. Complying with the item purchase descriptions, as I mentioned, the items in the market basket will have national stock numbers or NSNs. An NSN is simply the government's official label that's applied to an item of supply that is purchased over and over again or stocked or has in the past been stocked, stored, issued, or used in the federal supply system. And it's a unique 13-digit number that's been assigned by the federal government catalog system. When it's assigned to an item of supply, the data is assembled to describe that item, and so those data elements include information about the item name, the physical and performance characteristics, as well as a unit of issue. NSNs are an essential part of the military's logistics supply chain used in managing their material. And so each NSN has an item purchase description, and those have, as I mentioned already, those have been provided as an attachment. The next one, ability to support a requisition-based environment. vendors will need to explain their knowledge with fed strip, mill strip processes, transaction formats, receipt of transactions, processing shipments, NSN matching, integration with DoD's vendor shipping module or VSM, routing shipments to specified freight forwarders and consolidation points, water ports and air terminals, and just overall the shipments, how to palletize and organize for those consolidation points and ensure that they're doing the appropriate marking, packaging, and labeling. Another bullet, the vendors must demonstrate the ability to meet the electronic communication capability. Contractors must be able to conduct business utilizing a standardized electronic method, and that's either by EDI or a web portal. VSM requirements, as I stated, the DLA's vendor shipment module, you must be able to recognize and use that module and show that you can recognize orders for CENTCOM and meet those supplemental requirements. Marking and packaging, can't say this enough how important it is that those shipments are all marked and packed correctly. So you'll have to provide evidence of the knowledge for all of those requirements, including knowledge of the Mill Standard 129 and Fed Standard 123. And then last one I'm going to mention is just the ability to secure a scannable barcode, that all products are labeled with a scannable barcode based on a SKU, an internal number, or a UPC code. And those barcodes have to have the capability of being scanned by a certain scanner or an equivalent that's mentioned in the RFP or the RFQ. So with that, again, we'll take questions at the very end of the presentation, and right now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Maria Vachon, who's the Contracting Officer for Office Supplies.
Hello, good afternoon. Our acquisition for office supplies is going to be an RFP, a request for proposal, which is going to be an open market procurement, not tied to the multiple award schedule. We plan to award several indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts, which will be firm fixed price with economic price adjustment. Next slide. As I mentioned, this will be open to all vendors, and our acquisition will encompass the three categories of general office supplies, paper, and toner and ink. And our estimated spend annually will be $200 million. The aggregate volume discounts for vendors will be asked to provide additional discounts that go into effect upon reaching a cumulative level of spend. And as you can see, we have outlined the different tiers, 10 million all the way up to 100 million. So our period of performance is 1 base year with 4 one-year options. We're asking for delivery of 4 days CONUS and 7 days OCONUS. Those are calendar days. There is no minimum order for each of our orders, and the delivery terms are FOB destination for all orders. Next slide. And with that, I turn it over to Jody Ann Blagrove, the Contracting Officer for JanSan.
Thank you, Maria. I'm one of the contracting officers working on the JanSan Requisition channel, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of the acquisition strategy for both MRO and JanSan. Next slide, please. The JanSan Requisition channel currently consists of 522 products. The estimated annual spend is over $92 million, and this is based on 2012 sales. MRO currently has 274 products. Their annual estimated spend is $144 million. This is also based on 2012 sales. Next slide. And as you see, each channel is divided into categories. MRO has 2 categories and JanSan has 5. For more information on the categories and their definitions, please see the note to contractors, which is at the beginning of each of the draft RFQs. Specifically for MRO, there are 4 BPAs that will be awarded, 2 in each category. In each category, 1 BPA will be unrestricted and 1 will be restricted. For JanSan, we expect to make 10 awards, 2 in each category. Categories 1 through 4 will each have 1 unrestricted BPA and 1 restricted. The 5th category will have 2 restricted BPAs. Next slide. Contractors, I think they should really pay attention to this page. You'll be required to complete the aggregated sales discount tab on the quote sheet. The aggregated tier discounts are the discounts from your mass pricing that go into effect when the aggregate sales thresholds are met. Contractors will provide the discount values for each aggregate tier threshold. The quote BPA price and the calculated tier BPA prices will be used in your scoring. So definitely pay attention to that. Next slide. Each BPA will have a base of 1 year with 4 one-year options. The delivery for the continental U.S. is 4 calendar days. For outside of the continental U.S., delivery is 7 calendar days. For all OCONUS shipments, though, contractors are only required to ship to a consolidation point, which will be stateside, where the package will then be forwarded overseas by the government. The contractor's responsibility is to deliver to the consolidation point within the 7 calendar days. With respect to minimum delivery order, there's no minimum, and contractors will be expected to fulfill all orders regardless of size. For our delivery terms, they are FOB destination. Therefore, your pricing must include shipping costs. As with the JanSan and MRO purchasing channel, your mass schedule contracts must be FOB destination in order for you to submit an offer in response to these RFQs. I think we're going back to Walter for questions.
All right, are we there to questions now? Let me see. There we go. So we do have a number of questions. Before I start on that, there seemed to be some confusion in some of the questions. This set of procurements is not for the purchase channel, which we're already in the process of either receiving quotes on or evaluating pricing on. This is to fulfill our global supply requirements, those procurements which used to support our depots. So these are not the purchase channel. There was a comment that on third generation office supplies that they thought there was a minimum order of $100, and that is correct for the purchase channel. For the requisition channel, the requirement that we have is basically a unit of 1. I mean, it's a $0, but a unit of 1 to be able to support. That's currently what the requirement is. You know, as we've noted, these are draft procurements. If you have comments on them, there is a comment period that you can submit comments on. So there was there's several questions regarding, especially for the small businesses, being able to receive orders who don't currently do EDI orders and being able to receive them. GSA is working on and will have a solution to help if there's a successful small business that right now is not capable of doing EDI, a solution that will allow us to bridge into a slightly less strenuous electronic method rather than doing fax. This question from Mark Wade Hampton, understanding that contractors must meet 100% of the market basket items, and the draft RFQ says that the contractor is expected to cover 90% of the NSNs and their applicable supply classes to be considered. So, you know, I'll do that, and then I'll check and see if the others have some answers there. But what that means, the market basket is really just the high spend items for each one of these commodity areas. These are the high demand items that we've seen in the past fiscal year. In addition to those items, there are many more that we do still need